I am transgender. Growing up, it was scary. I didn't have anyone to talk to. My family didn't understand. It's a struggle to be real. Society, for some reason, doesn't want people to be real. I've come across a lot of transgender children in the world, and I want to do everything in my power to make sure that they don't go through the things that I went through. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It just matters, are you a good person? I want someone to know it's okay to be transgender. It's okay to discover that you're not transgender if you think you are. It's okay to be gender fluid. It's okay to be gender neutral. It's okay to be gender non-conforming. It's okay to be male. It's okay to be female. It's okay to be gay, straight, lesbian. It's okay. Just please be a good person. Be kind. Welcome to today's episode of Kelly's Quest. Today we're going to be talking about the evolution of the portrayal of transgender people in the media. I remember a long time ago when I had my first encounter with what it was to be transgender, and it was through the media, and it truly influenced me. And I'm going to explore that topic a little bit deeper. And I had to bring somebody on the show that is far more knowledgeable about this than I. So what I have done is I have brought Patrick Snow from the control room of Acton Public TV. I have actually tricked him into coming out behind the... He's no longer the Wizard of Oz. He's now in front of the camera instead of behind it. And Patrick, thank you for being here with me on the show. And I just have to say that it is nice to have somebody in the media that I can come to, because you're kind of the person behind the show. All of the crazy Ken Burns stuff that happens on it, all of the music, all of the overlays, all of the script, all of the wonderful things that I'm hearing great compliments about are from you. So as a team, I kind of think that we're doing something pretty good here, and I don't think I could have done it without you. So thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you for having me. It's very, very weird for me to be in front of the camera. Like you said, all of that editing, getting stuff ready, producing it, that's me in my element. So, like you said, you dragged me out of here, which is fine, but now I'm like totally out of my element. I'm like deer in the headlights a little bit under all of this.
Good. You kind of know what it feels like to be...
I know. I'm going to have so much more empathy now when people go on your show.
Exactly.
And they're just so anxious.
What
it's
we're
like,
going
oh,
through.
Yeah.
When you see us tripping over our tongues and when you see us...
Right. I'll never complain about that again.
Yeah, sure you will. But that's okay. You're allowed because you do a fantastic job. But one of the first questions I want to ask you is, you've got this film that you have put out on transgender issues, and I've seen it, and it's a very lovely film, and I'm just curious, what drove you? What was it that made you want to do a show over transgender issues? Because from what I remember, you're not transgender.
Correct.
And so what made you want to help?
I'm trying to figure out where to begin. I've been aware of transgender issues most of my life. I grew up in a very progressive, actively open-minded household, by which I mean I had parents who, their background originally, they were part of the Mormon Church for many years.
Okay.
And they left it the year that I was born. And throughout my lifetime, I'm the youngest of 4 children, they made an effort to raise me with very open-minded, values, get to know people. Everybody has a different story.
Wow, good.
And as far as transgender in particular, I know I first heard that word. Have you ever seen the movie called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert?
Yes, great movie.
Yes.
Love it.
I was, someone at my house, I think my parents were watching it, and I looked at the screen, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's highly recommended, first of all. and it's about some people, and they go on this road trip across the Australian outback. And when I was like 6 years old, someone in my house was watching that, and I saw this image of these people driving around in this car, and I said, are those men or are they women? And then my mom explained to me, like, well, they're transgender, which means that they were born in the wrong body, that inside they're really a woman, but they were born. And then she was explaining all this to me, and I was like, wow, huh. And my 6-year-old self was just utterly fascinated. This was like a brand new concept for me. And it's interested me ever since, just the idea of it. It's always been something where I do my best to try to imagine what that must be like.
Is that why you made the film, to
I
try
think
to
it
become
is
more
partially.
empathetic, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, growing up, I mean, not that it's necessarily relevant all the time to transgender issues, but I'm gay, and I got involved through that, telling my story as part of the group PFLAG, which deals with, yes, can't, you know, can't talk about them enough.
Right.
But so I've met many more transgender people through that than I would have otherwise, just in advocacy for, you know, LGBT, the whole spectrum.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I've just always been, so for one thing, growing up, I did know what it was like to have to come to the realization that I was in a certain manner fundamentally different than what I thought I was going to be as a kid. I just assumed that my life was going to be quote unquote normal, that I was a normal person, and then had to realize that I was never going to have that, you know, wife by my side going through life that way.
The 1950s version of
yeah,
what
exactly.
a family
Because
is.
beforehand, when I was like 8, I just kind of assumed that that's what growing up meant, was that you had that in your future.
Right.
So, I don't know, going through the process of it, it just tried to make me imagine what it must be like for a transgender person. I still don't know, really. I have no idea what it's like. But
I mean, I know what it's like to be Kelly Jenkins.
Right, I know what it's like to be Patrick Snow.
Right, but I have no idea what it's like for another person going through transgender issues, because, like you said, we're not them, and we can only try. Different circumstances create different outcomes. Like, there's this one famous person right now,
right,
that has been...
It happened this past, her transition was this past summer. Anybody listening probably already knows who we're talking about.
Right, exactly. And this person comes to their transgender self-awareness from a whole different level of media background, of celebrity status, of being a national hero, a national sports hero. And all of these things were generated. Well, I knew about Caitlyn Jenner, I'll go ahead and say the name, because of TV, of media, the Olympics. I knew about Caitlyn Jenner's transition because of the media. I know all of the things that Caitlyn Jenner is putting out to the world to be heard because of the media.
Right.
And it's a huge advantage to have that much access to the media, to be able to put out your belief system.
It is such a double-edged sword, the media, you know.
It is.
Anybody's first exposure to anything they're unfamiliar with is often through the media, and it can be a wonderful experience to learn about something that you've never experienced in your life, and it can also drastically sway your perspectives.
Yep.
You know, you're not talking to a real person, you're hearing something 1,000 miles away that has been prepackaged to sound a certain way, and it does not give you the full story.
Right, and that's why hopefully with this show, what people are coming away with every episode is authenticity. Try to be your real self. We try our best to not edit these conversations that I have with you and with the other guests. We try our best to not edit those because there are snafus. We're human. We might goof up. We might say the wrong thing. But we try our best to help. And sometimes the media, with that double-edged sword, thinks they're helping when they're not. I truly think that some people that think they're helping aren't.
You know, that's almost brings me more to what I was referring to before in terms of wanting to know more about what an actual transgender life experience is like. I mean, when I was an adolescent, a lot of my views of what a gay man was like very flamboyant, flashy characters on television. And to me, what that meant was somebody who is gay is like that. And I thought, well, I'm not really like that. So that means that I'm straight. Because, I mean...
Because you're matching the media portrayal.
Yeah, exactly. Because I played video games with my friends and watched Star Wars and did everything that in my head as like an 11-year-old boy meant that I was straight. And so, in a way, my life has been a series of realizations that you do have to detach yourself from these images that are really everywhere, you know. We're more exposed to national media than at any time in history because we're on the internet like 50,000 times a day checking everything,
right.
You know. So it's not just television, it's not just movies, it's on our computers, at work, at home, on our phones.
Back when I was young, print media was how I had a lot of my information about the world. I'm a huge sports fan, Patrick, huge sports fan. And one of my favorite things to do was to get a Sports Illustrated magazines and read them because these were the people that were my heroes.
Sure.
And you were talking about stereotypes being portrayed. I didn't think I could be transgender because I'm an athlete. I did not understand that I couldn't be both. I thought, I was actually told by my family, you can't be a girl, you're too good at sports. How insulting is that to women everywhere? I mean, like, you know, that's just not right. And they know it's not right because we have so many female athletes in my family that it's not even funny. But when your parents tell you something, you got to wonder if it's true, whether you want to or not. So I kind of started thinking that, and I did not realize that you could be transgender and an athlete until a Sports Illustrated article came out in the mid-1970s with Dr. Renee Richards on it. And talk about a life-changing pivotal moment to know, A, that I wasn't alone, and B, I could be as good an athlete as I wanted to be and still be my authentic self.
Yeah.
And just the whole, it changed things for me.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
It's all because of media. Media gave me that outlet to have an awareness of who I was. And then along rolls Jerry Springer that gives me this...
Sorry, I can't even...
Right.
I can't take him seriously enough to not
can't.
crack up a little bit just mentioning him.
But just like you had the portrayal of gay men must be flashy and flamboyant and over the top, I had this impression based on that I had to not be the classiest of people, for lack of a better word.
Well, right. You're a Jerry Springer person.
You're a Jerry Springer person. You are someone to be mocked. And so that scared me that I saw this portrayal of people like myself being made, and it shoved me into darkness, into hiding again. It's like, I am not that person. Not even close to being that person. And so the media, on one hand, gave me the self-awareness of who I am, but then at the exact same time said, but this is who you really got to be.
Yeah, I know.
And I never could work my way around that until I guess I'm still working my way around it because, like you said, we're bombarded with media. Goodness gracious, it's everywhere.
And
here we are bombarding you all
I know,
with media.
Right?
I mean, we are.
Yeah, we are a part of the media.
We are a part of it.
That's what these cameras are.
And just...
I mean, I remember, too, that I almost, by the time I became more accepting of the fact that this is the way I am, this is who I am, I became almost very bitter about the depiction of gay men as very flamboyant and very into fashion and Bette Midler and any of these other stereotypes I had running through my head. I felt like people put that out there to create this exaggerated view of what a gay person is, and that's not me, and that would make it really difficult for me. But at the same time, I feel like for a little while that made me almost prejudiced towards gay men who were rather flashy, rather flamboyant, because not all gay men are like me either. You know,
Right.
It's not like...
It's almost like you feel like they're feeding into the stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. And within the media, there are so many exaggerated portrayals of any kind of person. You know, you have portrayals of women on TV, you know. There's the really beautiful, gorgeous girl who's just a complete airhead. And then there's the nerdy girl who doesn't have any social skills whatsoever, but she's really, really smart, and you go to her to help with your computer problems. And television is really good at, I think, grabbing our attention with these hyper-simplified versions of people. And it is so far removed from reality that sometimes you just, I don't know, I think we just need to do more to talk with each other, you know?
It helps. I mean, I have a friend, she is transgender, but she's also an entertainer because she can't get a job anywhere else. She can't go to work at a school. She can't, you know, she didn't have those available avenues being transgender, so she makes her money by entertaining on stage. And then there was this whole debate of once she has surgery, she can't entertain anymore. And it's like, it is went,
yeah.
My brain got so confused with it that I actually couldn't cope with it. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, I thought I had figured it out that I was transgender, but then I got lost in all of it.
Yeah.
And
how could
it was,
you not?
It was so confusing because I didn't have, the only thing I had was the media because I didn't have family. And I didn't have friends that I could talk to, so I was getting my information from the media.
Yeah, and did you find, because this is a word I have not heard used for a while now, unless it's meant in a derogatory way, but transsexual. As opposed to saying a person is transgender, saying that someone is transsexual, or more often than not, a transsexual, like that's a noun.
Right.
I feel like in the more negative depictions of who people who are transgender are, there's a lot of sexualization. There's this desire to character, you know,
which
in a
leads
way
back
like
to Jerry Springer.
Yeah,
and stuff
it's like we're not going to
now.
tell you that this person is a pedophile or, you know, a sex criminal, but we're also going to throw all of these words at you that are going to kind of make wheels turning in your head to make a person think, I do not trust this someone because they're, you know, it's I hate the way how sneaky it is.
It is.
Because the same people can fill someone's head with these ideas of who someone is without actually saying it. And they can say, well, I never said that. And then it's, well, no,
you're
but...
hinting at it, right?
Yeah, you're creating an atmosphere in which you've associated one aspect about who a person is with something suspicious, something that is outside of, you know, your normal community.
Right, and until I moved up here and actually started getting truly involved with acting public TV, I mean, Mark Ducci, the program manager here, has been asking me to come on this show for onto the studio for a long time, and I kept saying no.
Yeah.
And then he introduced me to you, and I'm like, okay, here's a person that understands that how we portray transgender people is really hugely important. And I have complete faith that you and I are on the same page about doing it with respect and dignity and honor and as much true, authentic education as we can. I don't want to shoot out misinformation and then have to go back and recorrect it, which is what this famous person we were talking about earlier is doing. And so now I'm having to correct some things. It doesn't matter whether you have surgery or not. It doesn't matter if you look like a man or a woman, if you're transgender. It doesn't matter how you present yourself. As long as you're true, authentic self and you're happy with yourself, I think it's society's job to adjust to you being happy,
Right.
rather than you adjusting to the norms that society has determined for you, because we'd all be cookie cutters of each other.
Right.
And how boring would that be?
Right. And can I also just say that one of the things I love about how this show is going forward is we're getting to know who Kelly Jenkins is. I mean, most of the time I think it's changing a little bit now, but most of the time someone who is transgendered is depicted, they're depicted entirely within the context of the fact that they're transgender. And and because it's fascinating, because it's so different from what most people experience, that it's normal, natural human curiosity. Like, you want to know more about what it's like to be transgender. There's a million questions that you want to ask, but what gets lost in that is the fact that you're not talking to a transgender, you're talking to a person. And this is one aspect of their experience, but when you allow that to characterize everything you know about them, you lose so much of the human being. And I think what's important is that transgender itself becomes almost uninteresting. I think that it would be, and this is where schools and everything can play such a huge role. It should just be this knowledge of, some people are transgender. Of course they have fascinating, unique stories about that aspect of their life. But
I think the most unique part of my life story is the disc golf side of it.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I mean, that is by far I'm far more passionate about being a disc golfer than almost anything else until I moved up here. And now I see this outlet that the media that I can use, thanks to the introduction to acting TV, to help become more than just a transgender person. I can teach people that
you can be
disc
advocate
golf.
for disc golf. And
I mean, there's far more to everybody. I mean, everybody wants to stereotype everybody into the most simple person that they can make them, because that's easy. You're this person, so you act this way. I'm going away.
And once you do that, you've stopped including them.
Right.
I'm not going to be comfortable within a group of people if I'm the gay guy and that people think of me that way, and that it makes me a little bit other than normal if I'm around them. The same way that I can't imagine you would be comfortable hanging out with a group of people if you knew that that was the only thing about you that they saw.
Right.
It's just, and that's where media depictions are really tricky. We need to educate people, but at the same time, to prevent these labels from creating a barrier that hides the actual person.
Right, and without sensationalizing it.
Right, exactly. I'm sure that when Renee Richards came out, that there was, articles like Rolling Stone, I'm going to look that up and actually read that, but you have a lot of people who just try to sell as many copies as possible. And so, they exaggerate, because exaggerated material sells a lot of copies.
It does. It's society wants that too, and that's why the media is giving it to us. So, it is, once again, it's the double-edged sword. That's what
you got to be careful of the media you consume, because you might unknowingly be feeding into some unhealthy characterizations.
Right. But keep watching Kelly's Quest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But Patrick, I really do appreciate you coming on here, because you've brought a whole side to the story that I didn't really even think about, as far as the downplaying of some attributes just to single on this issue to sell. I guess I kind of understood that people would rather know that they would rather me be a transgender disc golfer than a disc golfer. And I remember when I was at camp, all of the counselors, we had to stand up and introduce ourselves. And we had to tell them what pronouns we used, and then they wanted us to go through the whole list. Are we transgender? Are we cisgender? And cisgender means that your brain and your body do align. It's basically the opposite of transgender.
Right.
And when it was my turn to talk, the first thing that I said is, I'm Kelly Jenkins, I'm a school teacher. Because I see myself as a teacher.
Yeah.
I do. I see myself as a teacher.
And when you say that, that tells me so much more about who you are as a person than if you said, I'm Kelly Jenkins and transgender. What does that tell me really about who you are?
It tells
nothing.
Really tells you nothing about me. And so then I told them that I'm also a disc golfer. I told them that I'm a dog lover. And I told them I'm a woman. And then I said, I happen to be transgender. And that's what I ended it with, was I happen to be transgender. All of those other things, whether I'm transgender or not.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to do, to get the media to be willing to approach it that way.
Yeah.
Because that's not as exciting, like you said.
Yeah, right.
You're a school teacher. I know thousands of school teachers.
Exactly.
But you're transgender. Oh, I now know. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out
That's
a
why
way
we have this show.
That's why we have this show, and that's how we're going to figure out.
We're getting this message out there, you know.
We are. We're going to figure out, and hopefully we'll continue to have more episodes. I don't see it stopping anytime soon, and hopefully people will keep tuning in.
Yeah.
But Patrick, I really do appreciate you coming on the show.
Well,
thank you for stepping out from the control room and now knowing why you see everybody come off set with sweat streaming down their faces, panic-stricken and all that. You now have a little bit.
That's true. Yep.
Welcome to the other side of the looking glass.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of Kelly's Quest.